Breaking news from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody, about the fourth stimulus check. So be sure to stay until the end of this video to find out what she is saying about our stimulus check payment. By the way, who do you think is holding back our stimulus check? Is it the Democrats or the Republicans? Tell me in the comments below, everybody.
The requirement for work requirement. So here's small business once again, can't find people to work, and business and government is now competing with them.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Jan. Just a quick follow-up on inflation. So we're looking at Labor Department data. It shows that there is like a 0.9% decline in how much Americans have earned per hour on average this August versus last year. So year-over-year data when you adjust it for inflation. And so inflation is clearly eating into people's paychecks. And, you know, I understand that you're saying that, you know, and you have said this in the past, that impact from inflation is transitory, that the president will, you know, when asked how he plans to address this, we'll talk about competition issues, we'll talk about meat prices. But are there any sort of near-term steps that, you know, the White House is now thinking of taking as you look at this data that is starting to flow in? And is the president starting to get increasingly concerned, perhaps, that this is now starting to actually eat into people's paychecks?
Well, as you picked that wages piece of data, though, I think what's important to note is that the progress that the president talked about this morning is on a range of fronts, which is also important. We're at a faster projection of economic growth than we were at a year ago, far and away. The 4.8% unemployment rate is down from 6.3% in January. Unemployment claims are down 60% since the president took office. We have seen close to 5 million jobs created since President Biden took office, and wages actually went up month to month from last month to the prior month. So that's all important data. I understand we can cherry pick different data pieces from a year ago or 2 years ago, but what we're seeing in the trend is encouraging and is progress being made. As you well know, inflation is the purview of the Federal Reserve. They make projections. We rely on those projections. Those continue to say that it's transitory and will come down next year. It is also important that we address this over the long term and we address the costs. That is really what we're talking about in terms of the impact on the American people. People may not know, you hear inflation, it's like, what does that mean? That means rising costs, right? And how do you address those costs? And what the president's trying to do with his economic agenda is do exactly that. Cut the costs for the American people, child care, elder care, cut.
Accumulated $30 trillion in debt. Interest payments have been fairly low over the past decade or so. Interest payments are about, 1, 2, 2.5%. But now interest rates are rising. Even at the low interest rates, our interest rate that we pay each year has grown to about $300 billion a year. So $300 billion a year, and people say, well, there's a debt ceiling. If the debt ceiling doesn't come up, we'll default, and Wall Street will become hysterical, and there'll be a collapse of the stock market. Well, there doesn't need to be. Nobody really is for spreading discalm or spreading, chaos among the marketplace. We all want the marketplace to be calm. How could we calm the marketplace? What we would say to the marketplace is, we'll pay our bills. We're not going to default on our currency. And the way you can pay for your bills is pay
their fair share and provide governments with the resources to invest in their workers and economies. The president's Build Back Better agenda, now being considered by Congress, will build on this agreement. It will eliminate incentives to shift jobs and profits abroad and ensure that multinational corporations pay their fair share here at home. The international agreement is proof that the rest of the world agrees that corporations can and should do more to help build back better. I understand you're all looking for a week ahead. We will have one, I promise, in the later days of this weekend, and we'll provide that to all of you as soon as we have it. And last item, I know we talk about serious things in here, but we have one fun thing today. Chris is getting married in a week, so you won't see him for 2 weeks, and nobody can call him or bother him for 2 weeks. Bother me, Corrine, Chris. And just to embarrass him a little bit, I got him a little special sash to wear, just for the briefing, because everybody should know that Chris is marrying up, as many people do. You can put it on yourself, and also a pin. Also a pin. I'll let Andrew or someone else put on you. But really, we just wanted to congratulate Chris, celebrate him. Most important decision you make is the person you choose to be your partner. Glad you have your mask on. Exactly. Okay, with that, Amr.
I don't know how I top that.
You tell me. Give him advice.
Let's try to ask a question. Can you confirm that the White House is authorizing the National Archives to turn over documents covering all communications related to Trump's activities on January 6th?
The administration takes the events of January 6th incredibly seriously, as the president said on its 6-month anniversary. That day posed an existential crisis and a test of whether our democracy could survive. It was in many respects a unique attack on the foundations of our democracy. The president's dedicated to ensuring that something like that could.
So Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is shaking her head at employers who are flabbergasted people have not come back to work after the unemployment benefits expired. So when federal unemployment benefits were meant to expand and enhance the social safety net for Americans, millions of incomes were drastically slashed when the benefits were expired. Gig workers and freelancers were particularly impacted as they were newly eligible for benefits during the crisis under the Unemployment Assistance Program. That program made up the greatest share of federal unemployment distributed in 2020, and advocates have seized on its widespread adoption as an argument to permanently expand eligibility to a wider variety of workers. In the week ending August 28th, right before benefits ended, more than 5 million Americans had continued claims. So while the end of benefits like Unemployment Assistance Program was meant to get Americans back to work, it doesn't seem to have happened yet. Ocasio-Cortez tweeted this isn't hard, asking what's the point in working a minimum wage, or even $15 an hour. So prior to the September 6th expiration of all federal unemployment benefits, 26 states opted out of benefits early. In those states that cut off unemployment insurance early, only one of which is led by a Democrat. Several officials referenced the need to get people back to work and plug up labor shortages. But now has shown that cutting those benefits off early had little impact on job growth and employment. But it did deliver a big economic blow to the states that opted out. One analysis found that consumer spending in those early cutoff states fell by $2 billion. So Ocasio-Cortez has been at the forefront of the small group of lawmakers pushing for an extension of this. In August, she told Insider that the Biden administration had indicated that they have no willingness to extend unemployment insurance, but the progressives were looking to take in action. So, Democratic leaders are now trying to pass two pieces of legislation: the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill and the up to $3.5 trillion Build Back Better Act, both of which they say can cut the U.S. pollution by up to 45% in the coming decade. Congress would flex its power to transform the electricity sector so that it runs mainly on clean energy. But I believe that President Biden and everybody should be focused on helping out Americans and sending out the fourth stimulus check. It's definitely necessary, everybody, for President Biden to do this. He has to give us promise to the American people, folks. And if you guys agree, then let's get this video to 1,000 likes.